In today's lesson we're going to look at circles. Now a circle is a 2D shape, it's a closed curve and every point on the edge is the same distance from the centre of the circle. The centre of your circle will always be marked with a small dot. If we think about half a circle, if you cut your circle in half, then it's called a semicircle. There are some parts of the circle, some labels, that you need to be aware of, and we're going to have a look at those now. So the outside of the circle, the part marked in blue on this top diagram here, we refer to that as the circumference of the circle. The circumference of the circle is the total distance around the outside. So that blue part there is called the circumference, the distance around the outside of the circle. So that's your circumference. Now, if we only talk about part of the circumference and not all the way around, then it's an arc. On the lower diagram, I'm going to mark an arc. So you can see that red line, that curved red line that I've drawn there, it's part of the circumference, so that would be referred to as an arc, with a C, not a K. Looking at that diagram, you might realise, well, there's two arcs on the circumference because we've got the smaller arc that I've marked in red, but there's also the longer arc in blue. Talking about the comparison of those two arcs, they are referred to as a minor and major arc. So the shorter of the two is the minor arc, so the one I've drawn in red would be the minor arc, and the longer one would be the major arc. So all the way around the outside of the circle then is the circumference. Part of the circumference is an arc. The next label we'll have a look at then is the radius. The radius is any line from the centre of the circle to the circumference. So that could have gone in any direction at all. Right? So as long as you start from the centre and you go to the outside of the circle, then that's a radius. The diameter is a line that goes from one side of the circumference to the other through the centre. It has to go through the centre of the circle. So there we are, there's a diameter marked there on that circle. The diameter is the line that goes through the centre from one side to the other. Now sometimes people get a little bit confused between radius and diameter and they mix the two of them up. What I would say to you is the radius is the smaller word, so that's the smaller of the two lines, just from the centre to the outside. Diameter is the longer word, so that's the longer line going all the way through the circle from one side to the other through the centre. The connection between the two then, the diameter is twice as long as the radius. The diameter is the longer of the two lines and it's made up of two radii. Two lines going from the centre to the circumference. And the radius then is half the distance of the diameter. To draw a circle, we need to use a pair of compasses. And what we do is we open up the compass so the distance between the point of the compass and your pencil is the distance of the radius. We'll have a little go at that now. So the question's asking you on the board, draw a circle with a radius of 3 centimetres. So I'm going to need my ruler, and I'm also going to need the compass. The radius is going to be 3 centimetres, so I'm going to open up my compass to a distance of 3 centimetres. So I've got the point of the compass at 0, and I'm going to shorten the distance to 3 centimetres. So I've opened up the compass 3 centimetres. I know it says 30 on the ruler, that's marked in millimetres, so that's an opening there of 3 centimetres. Once you've got your compass open to the width of the radius, then we just need to draw the circle. There we go. So that is a circle with a radius of 3 centimetres. The distance from the centre of the circle to the circumference in any direction would be 3 centimetres. So you open up the compass to the width or the length of the radius. This next question, however, is asking me to draw a circle with a diameter of 5 centimetres. So not the radius now, it's giving me the diameter. If I draw you a little sketch on the side then, so what they want is they want me to draw a circle with a diameter of 5 centimetres. Now if you think back to what we said, there's a connection between the radius and the diameter. We are going to open up the compass to the length of the radius, but at this moment in time the question doesn't give me the radius, it gives me the diameter. So the radius is just the distance from the centre to the circumference, which we've already established. The radius is half the length of the diameter. So to find the radius, I'm going to take my diameter, which is 5 centimetres, and divide it by 2 or halve it. So half of 5 is 2.5 or 2.5 centimetres. So I now need to open up my compass to 2.5 centimetres. Point to the compass at 0, and let's bring this in now to 2.5 or 2.5. I've opened up the compass to the width of the radius, so all we now need to do is to draw the circle. So the distance now in any direction from the centre of that circle to the circumference would be 2.5 centimetres. So I've got a distance there of 2.5 centimetres and a distance here of 2.5 centimetres. So in total that gives me a diameter of 5 centimetres. And if we have a little look now at some of the other labellings, move that off the way. So a sector is a part of the circle formed by an arc and two radii either side of the arc. So if we draw in an arc, it could be any length, draw in an arc there, and let me change the colour so you can see it. So I've drawn my arc, and then I'm going to draw the radius from either end of the arc. So this distance here, or this area that I've just drawn, which I'm just going to shade in for you now in yellow, that is referred to as a sector. It actually looks like a slice of pizza. So if you see what looks like a slice of pizza on a circle, it's actually referred to as a sector. So any arc and then the ends of the arc joined to the centre of the circle, creating what looks like a slice of pizza, is called a sector. A chord is any line that joins 2 points on the circumference. So 2 points on the circumference joined by a line. That line that I've just drawn here now is a chord. And the last labellings we'll have a little look at then, first of all, is a segment. So segment is part of a circle formed either side of a chord. We just talked about a chord. It's a line that joins one part of the circumference to the other. So I'll draw another chord here on this diagram. And it's the parts either side of the chord which we refer to as the segment. So if I can just label this part here with my lines, if I shade this in here. Right. So the part there is a segment, but you might realise that I've got the other side of the line which is also a segment. So like we did with the chord, we can refer to them as minor and major segment. So the smaller of the segment, let me just change the colour, the smaller, well I didn't change it, there we go. The smaller segment then is the minor segment. And the larger segment, this side here, would be the major segment. So the segment is the part of the circle either side of the chord. Chord being the line we've drawn through the circle. And then tangent to a circle is any straight line that just touches the circumference at one point. So it could be drawn in any direction. I take my ruler now, so I'm going to go from this point here, change my colour again, sorry. So from this point here, I'm drawing a line that just touches the circumference of the circle. Right, the circumference of the circle just touches it in one point. It doesn't touch it in more than one point, so it just touches in a single point. That line that I've drawn is the tangent to the circle. So this line here is the tangent. I could have drawn the tangent in any direction at all. So any line that just cuts the outside of the circle or just meets the circumference is a tangent. And that's the end of the video.